Morning, everyone. Yeah, so you're spot on. I'm here to talk about our commitment to inclusion. I'm here to talk about our commitment to race equality specifically, but also across all protected characteristics. And viewers of 827 will hopefully recall that we've set out for the organisation a series of commitments, workforce commitments, 5 workforce commitments, and one of them is around inclusion. And that explicitly says, we really recognise we're a stronger organisation, a better organisation, better able to undertake our work in providing care and being a rich organisation that hears different voices, when we value difference, when we value inclusion of all across all protected characteristics. So there's a huge commitment that we've said, and we know from a variety of routes that actually that isn't the case at the moment. That commitment doesn't play out in reality. There's a different experience in the profile of the workforce, in the actual experience of staff, in some of the processes that staff experience and how they experience them. So what we're saying here, through the selection process, through the appointment process, we want to really demonstrate that commitment to inclusion. And what we did a while ago was we reviewed the panels who were making appointment decisions, and we identified, of course, that particularly at senior level, but across the organisation. Hi, Erica, great you're joining us. The panels weren't demonstrating the inclusion, the diversity of our workforce here at CUH. All too often, panels were made up of entirely white colleagues, not demonstrating the approaching 30% of our workforce from diverse communities. And often there was a single gender. Often in nursing, it was a female-only panel. In senior managers, often it was a male-only panel. So what we were saying was, we want to change our process. We want to improve our process to hear much more diverse voices on the interviewing side of the table, as well as the applicants for jobs with us. And what we did at that stage was said, we want to bring somebody onto panels who can be diverse, who can live and share experiences of diversity with candidates and explore that with candidates and had lived experience of diversity. And that's been successful. We've undertaken that at post band 8A and above. It's been, I believe, a really positive experience for panels to explore diversity in a different way. And I've had feedback from candidates to say, you're clearly demonstrating a commitment here at CUH about what's important to you. And that includes inclusion as well as a range of other things that we explore at interview. So now we're stepping it up. We're stepping it up more. We're extending the coverage of this expectation of diverse panels, and we've introduced and formalized the role to be titled diversity. I'm going to get used to it eventually. Diversity Inclusion Panellist, which of course gets abbreviated to the DIP role, but hopefully we'll just keep focusing on the diversity inclusion panelist that reminds us of their role. And if you look on Connect, there is an opportunity to become a panelist undertaking this role. There's training opportunities coming over the next few months. We're encouraging people to sign up sooner rather than later. So what we're saying is, if you have an experience, a lived experience, a passion for and a desire to explore that through the selection process, including through increasing number of interview processes, please do step forward, join the training, and come on board. And you will find yourself in some interesting conversations about the appointments to roles in our organisation. I'm going to hand over to Erica, who's been leading this piece of work. So I'm delighted to see you, Erica, this morning. And also Vaz just happens to be on the call today, and he's undertaken a number of interviews. I think you've done more interviewing between the two of you than I've done over the past few years of senior roles, which has been great. Just from a personal perspective, can I say how much I value working alongside these panel members? Because it's given a real opportunity for the panel itself to talk about inclusion. It's given a real opportunity to say, so how are we going to explore this with candidates? What are we going to talk about? What are the questions going to be? How would you respond to this question? And Erica, you always play a blinder by asking questions that really challenge. really challenge me as a colleague of how I would address some of the issues you've raised. So thank you for undertaking the role, and I welcome people coming on board to join this team of people across the organisation. Erica, I've sort of bumbled my way through explaining what the role is. Do you want to add your perspective and say where you're coming through on this role as well?
Yes, thank you so much, David. Can people hear me?
Yep.
Lovely, thank you. Lorraine, thank you so much for highlighting that I wasn't there, but I was. I think I hadn't pressed something. Yeah, but without further ado, I think my experience of being a diversity and inclusion panelist is mostly been positive, as I've found the benefits to be bidirectional between myself and fellow panelists, and between myself and the interviewee or the candidate. Now, fellow panelists do gain insights, just like David said, from me in the way I would view certain behaviors a candidate may have during the interview, which could be misinterpreted to the disadvantage of a candidate. And somehow we have managed to get to an understanding of why these nuances are there. They are not necessarily to demonstrate that the candidate is not appointable, but this is where the candidate may be coming from. I also gain insight from other panelists on how they see the big picture of the role and how together we can make a suitable appointment to benefit the organization. Now, one thing we underestimate is the impact on one's confidence when they approach an interview panel composed of people with whom they have little in common. For example, being interviewed, no biases here, being interviewed by an all-male panel can make one female candidate feel very self-conscious and may impact their performance at interviews. So my experience of being a panelist is that I allow myself to share my good understanding of equality and cultural issues from an organizational perspective. Our trust values should remain our compass and golden thread as we embrace diversity and inclusion in our recruitment activity. On a negative part, which is something that, is a work in progress, my most recent panel engagement, I could see that there had not been any call for a diversity interview inclusion panelists. I'll be referring to them as a DIP. And I offered this benefit to them so that I could play a role in bringing to people's consciousness the importance of recruiting without bias. I could see that there was some way to go, especially when it comes to placing emphasis on having a DIP engagement throughout the process of recruitment and selection. And that is from shortlisting and the final appointment of the candidate. So that has been my experience. The final thing I'd like to note, without taking up too much time, I note we started a little bit later than 8:27. I would like to re-emphasize that the DIP campaign, which David has already mentioned there, is a trust-driven campaign in collaboration with the BAME network. Thus support in reaching our ambition to make our organization exemplary in recruiting without bias is a responsibility for all of us, really. Thank you. Vaz, do you have any more to add?
No, Erica, I think you put it really well, and David as well. And I just think it's the buzzword today is journey. We are on a journey, and I think we have started really well. I think we've got a long way to go, but I think you put everything. I think the panels are really important for both sides to understand. Was that the cultural nuances are very difficult to sometimes the panelists don't understand if you don't have someone who has got experience of that, because they will come across as being not performing well, but actually that's because of the way the candidate has been culturally sensitive to what they are used to doing at home, rather than being forthcoming in an interview like here in England. So I think there's quite a lot of differences which can be brought up, and we can have a discussion. I've had discussions with David in the past and with Roland, saying that the person answered that question differently. It's because I think this is what's happened, and David and Roland said, oh, we didn't think about that, and it's vice versa as well. And we can look at the other panelists, and where Roland said, oh, that's probably because of that. And I think that the whole discussion really highlights where we are, and we are connecting with each other right now. And I think this is a journey, and I think it's really good. I would definitely encourage people to come forward. You also meet different kinds of people, connecting with people. You know, when you connect with people, then next time when you need to do something, you just speak to them, and you have that suddenly you connect with different people and you get things done. So I think it's really important, and please come forward if you're interested. I would really recommend it.
Vaz and Erica, you are very, very good advocates for this piece of work. I'm delighted to be alongside you for this. And just to reiterate, what I think is really powerful, the way you do this, the way you undertake this role, is you don't take away inclusion and own it yourself. You share it with the panel. So we have a conversation about it. It doesn't just appear in a couple of questions. It's a theme running through all the questions. And it is a really powerful way of raising our game in discussing things with candidates that are really important to the organization. And Erica, and Vaz to some degree, I'm not bitter, Erica, that when there's a senior post recently where Roland said, I want to see a couple of candidates again. And David, would you mind if it was just myself, the chairman, and Erica? So I'm going to stand you down, David. He wanted really to explore inclusion with you, Erica, and the candidate, and that was a great part of the scheme. And I'm delighted that it works this way. So just to summarise, it's about the experience of diverse candidates, and it's about the experience of probing candidates who may not be from a diverse background, but to explore their understanding and their skills around inclusion. So it applies for all candidates. And as I say, we hopefully can bring this to many, many more panels when we get this broader team of people up and help them support them in this role. So delighted to be a colleague alongside the team on this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks, David. Thanks, Erica. Nice to see you, and thanks, Vaz. David, just to confirm, if somebody is interested, I think you said that there's some information on the portal, did you? But is there anyone that they can speak to? Would it be contacting you, Erica, or Vaz, or are there other people that they could speak to, maybe?
Well, Erica,
I'll put you on the spot, sorry.
I can answer that. On Connect, the information that will go out on Connect, the people to contact would be Annesley or myself. But if there's anybody else that somebody knows who has undertaken this sort of exercise or responsibility, they can also contact those people, but it's very clear on the communication that's going to go out who the points of contact are going to be. And right. We've got specific dates for the training at the end of this side of Christmas, and we've dotted them around to allow people to utilize use their calendars in such a way that it's flexible enough for them to attend.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Erica. And Tony's just told me that there's some details going out in the bulletin today. And Ansley's just put on the chat that you don't need to have interview experience, full training and ongoing support will be available. So thank you, Ansley. Okay, Tony, any other questions for the panels?
No others.
No. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you everybody, and thanks everybody for listening. Hope you have a good day. Thank you. Bye.